It's never too late. It's never too late.
I think that Facebook doesn't just allow people to represent themselves differently, but I think the medium demands that people represent themselves differently. So when you think about the way that you interact with people normally, it's often the things that you portray about yourself are often limited to, a couple of people, the people who are in the room or the people you're talking to immediately. Whereas the way that you portray yourself on Facebook changes because you're aware that you're portraying an image to everybody all the time. And so that sort of inherently changes the kind of things you say and the things you do.
Facebook does influence gossip and the way people talk about other people within friendship groups as well. Because if you see something on Facebook, you might be chatting to a friend and say, oh, did you see it on Facebook? Like so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that and they were at this party and that happened and whatever. And we do. Facebook has become part of the kind of vernacular, like the things that we talk about within real life.
I don't think my view of people have changed since they've been on Facebook, but I think you develop more of a view of people that you don't know to begin with.
I don't think that my opinion of anyone has changed because of the way that they use Facebook, but I think that my opinion of people could have changed because of Facebook existing.
You sort of form opinions about people you don't even know, and they might be completely false.
You always want to be the best person you can be online, I suppose.
I think that for any casual user of Facebook, there's a real temptation to portray yourself differently. And I think that it's in varying degrees. So I guess I like to say that I don't portray myself too differently, but then there are still little things that you do on Facebook to make yourself, I guess, look better.
Oh, I definitely think I can be slightly cooler on Facebook because I'm able to monitor what goes on and make sure, I'm only seen in a certain light.
You don't just control your image on Facebook, it's a completely manufactured image. It's no one's true self is their Facebook self.
I don't know that I would call the Facebook community deceitful, in that I guess if you look at any kind of human interaction, there's always going to be an element of deceit or an element of playing up. So I don't think Facebook is necessarily worse than any other community or any other form of human interaction. But I definitely think that the way that Facebook is structured and the way people use it makes it very tempting, let's say, for people to portray an image of themselves that is not necessarily true.
Facebook is deceitful, more so than other social networking platforms, because with others such as Twitter and YouTube, you can hide behind a hyperlink, you hide behind your own name. Profile pages, you don't really have profile pages as such. Or like landing pages as to who you are. So I think with Facebook, it's all about, the person.
Yeah, well, it definitely is a fabricated reality, I suppose, the way people checking in and untagging photos of themselves and even photoshopping photos that they put up on Facebook. So it's not a true reflection of maybe what somebody's life is. But again, it's just a promotional page for themselves, really, isn't it? Whether or not that is considered changing the fabric of a community on Facebook, I'm not quite sure about that.
When you're trying to understand what a person is like from their Facebook status, it's interesting to kind of analyse because you've got to remember you're not just, looking into their soul. It's not as if you're reading their diary. You're reading a carefully crafted, carefully drafted image of themselves. So I guess the biggest truth you can get from someone's Facebook status is, what do I want the world to know about me?
People have an understanding of what they think is cool and they want to subscribe to that coolness.
Some, I guess, make themselves seem really indie using, music lyrics or random bands that no one knows, put them as their status to see if people would notice. Or there's people who will permanently untag themselves from photos they don't like or if they look stupid in it, rather than having a laugh, so they don't want people to see them like that.
Yeah, if people are looking at your photos, you obviously want to make sure that they're suitable photos and stuff which, you don't look too ordinary in. So I do vet that a little bit.
There's been a couple of times I've had photos being put up and I've just gone, oh man, I know that's what I look like, but really? Did you just really have to show that to everyone?
When I was younger, I did untag myself, but the main reason I would untag myself or hide my photos now would be more for the way I want to present myself to my work colleagues.
Probably I'm the biggest offender of untagging photos, but my general criteria for that is just if I look fat.
I notice a lot of people who try to put on a very different image to who they are. I think everyone is selective in what they post. Everyone thinks about the words they put on. Everyone thinks about where they're checking in for, I think most people put up things for a reason.
Some people just don't subscribe to that and they think it's bullshit and they think it's whatever and they don't want to conform. And you'll literally see the most basic information. They'll have 2 photos there. They'll be more than active, wanting to communicate with you. They'll want to write on your wall, you'll write on theirs, and there'll be that active communication, but everything else is just completely superficial to them. And, that will say a lot about a person and what they value and how they don't care how they're perceived because they only care about how they're perceived to the people they're communicating with, which are their friends anyway.
I feel like the most confident people on Facebook will often have pictures that aren't pictures of themselves, because I often feel like, if you've got a picture that's not of yourself, they feel so confident in themselves they don't need to sort of portray how beautiful they are, how gorgeous they are. They feel so comfortable in themselves that they don't necessarily have to put their photo in their piece of land, in their piece of real estate online.
I might write a status update that's really witty, but that's not indicative of how I am all the time. Sometimes I might say things that are completely stupid, but because you have that mediated communication, the stupid stuff doesn't go up online. Similarly, I think that there are people who are maybe a bit obvious in the way that they try to make themselves look better on Facebook, and sometimes it almost backfires. So things like excessively posed photographs or, photos that are made to look too artistic can almost have a backlash, because it's like as soon as the community is aware how hard you're trying, then the whole illusion falls to pieces.
But at the end of the day, I think that's why people like Facebook. I think people like that idea that they can create an image for themselves, and they can also create responses that adhere to that image. So you're not going to catch anyone out on Facebook. And people like that safety net of, at the end of the day, I'm by myself, in my room, in front of a computer screen. They can't see what I'm doing right now. They can't get any information out of me that I don't want to give them. And it gives people that ability to just delete, or it gives people that ability to walk away or to block a person who, isn't being very nice to them, etc., etc., etc. Whereas you can't do that in real life.